Welcome to the Center of Light, all my beautiful Yanavites. It's good to see you. Welcome to the show tonight. I want to give you just a little bit of information. Well, first, I'm always, part of my theme is we're living in a time which always meant to be clear, but now is the time for utmost clarity in this world. The world's a little crazy. There's a lot of noise out there. Get quiet. It'll help to become absolutely crystal clear. This is your salvation. What Keith, a crystal ball, knows what this represents. Clarity, spherical, pure mind. It's going to require lots of quiet and clarity to meander, navigate this place we're in right now, 2021. Tonight, my guest is Mr. Rajan Shankara. I hope I said his name correctly. But I do want to make an announcement that which just happened. If you hear me pause, it's because there's a glitch in my audio. There's a little pop in my ear, and it tells me my voice is going to drop out for 5 seconds or so. And as I was going to tell you, synchronistically, it just magically shows. Let's get down to some Center of Light Radio beeswax. Center of Light Radio, Center of Divine Unfoldment and Reinforcement. My bestseller, Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. This guy right here, 30 years of my life compressed into this beautiful little spiritual book, couple of 150 pages, tells the story of the guy next door. I'm just a guy next door. I found my walk. How did I do that? I had a lot of passion, sincerity, humility, and vulnerability. And I found a formula that worked for me. And I cracked open the door to the universe. And it's brought me nothing but myself. Lots of joy, lots of bliss, lots of helping and assisting other people. But also in the very near future, this guy right here, my new album I'm going to be releasing, hopefully in under a year, Samadhi, Union with God. Intention for union with God, to stay in that magical, blissful garden. Into the fire, which you know as you is going to have to die. My condolences. But you can't bring that mess into the fire. The fire is going to purify you. And that's exactly what you want. I know everyone, including myself, we have this fear of death. Well, we really don't have a fear of death. We have a fear of regret because we don't actually allow ourselves to live. Live. Be on fire. Jump into the fire. Watch what happens to you. Let me tell you about my guest for tonight's show. Mr. Rajan Shankara left the world at 19 years old to become a monk and study his... Let me get something out the way. Excuse me. Let me start that over. He deserves better than that. Rajan Shankara left the world at 19 years old to become a monk and study his mind, find out what meaning and purpose was, and if meditation could take him to higher states of consciousness. Being trained in one of the world's foremost meditation institutions for over a decade, Rajan studied theology, philosophy, and psychology while surrounded by renowned experts on the mind, body, and fluid intelligence. He has helped edit and publish some of Hinduism's, bro, we are so going to get along, published some of Hinduism's oldest scriptures on health, balance, and culture, has performed religious ceremony for thousands of devotees, and helped build America's only hand-carved, all granite temples in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii. I wonder if that's the Byodo-in temple. Rajan has mentored over 1,000 individuals, is an author of 4 books, nonprofit founder, and soon to be father. Bro, what a journey that is. And currently helps NASA, I did say that correctly, and currently helps NASA with project coordination in advanced air mobility. I did post the link to his website and all that stuff in these forums. Please go stomp all over his page and make a big noise. Let him know you exist in the world. My brother, welcome to Center of Light Radio.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith. That was a wonderful introduction. Not the stuff about me, but the stuff you said about, well, who I really am, who we really are, the soul. And I can tell you're quite the mystic. So
takes one to know when it's your fault.
I'm excited to have this conversation. I love good conversations with I rarely have a conversation with someone who knows what the inside of themselves is really like and who've had these awakenings. And so this is an honor.
I share the same, my friend. And I like, when I do interviews, I don't mind notes or bullet points they want me to ask because they want to sell their work and they know what the audience is going to need to grab them into the whole experience. I love that. But I love these free conversations where we can just go and literally we can go in any direction you like because this is your platform. People often ask me, oh, well, I'd love to come to your show. What we're going to talk about. Don't put that shit on me. This is your platform. Let's talk about what gets you going. What gets you going, brother? What is your passion? What is your fire?
Something I absolutely love is deep advanced meditation and sustained shum meditation, which is something I rarely get to talk about or teach because so many students of mine are not ready for long meditation or consistent meditation. And I don't mean long as in hours and hours and hours and leaving your life or renouncing anything. I mean, becoming a person that really detaches from suffering and detaches from emotion and all the pettiness. I have a few students who have taken up this shum meditation, which I learned in the monastery. It's a language of meditation that my guru's guru discovered within himself in these sort of Akashic records inside one of his nadis where language was kept. And he pulled it out in the 1969 in Switzerland. And actually, the monks were staying at one of Carl Jung's homes. If not his home in Switzerland. I don't know if that's his main home, but they were having a retreat there for a few weeks in Switzerland, and he was meditating, and he was yearning for a language that he could teach his monks, a clear way to explain complex concepts that about the inner world, about things inside of us, which the English language, it takes too many words to go around these concepts. So if you're trying to teach someone meditation and guide them inside themselves, you can't use English because you'll lose the concepts. You'll lose the inside of yourself. You need something that they weren't born with, so that they can lose their sense of concepts. Because when I say an English word like car, all of a sudden, because we know everything that goes along with a car, we get externalized. We get taken to road trips and memories and everything that has to do with a car. But if I say Lishum Nambi, and I know that that means to prepare for meditation, all of a sudden this language can now internalize my awareness and take me in. So he found this language within himself, and over the next 30 years started to teach it and wrote it down and everything. That is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and there are very few people in the world that know this language. And I'm so grateful to have been and trained in it in the monastery. I know that was a lot.
I love it. Let me ask you this. I bet you never got asked this question before. When I was 6 years old, you grew up in America?
Yes.
When I was 6 years old, I had a 10-year-old older brother than me, and he grew up in the hippie era, and we shared a bedroom, and he played this song one day, and I just fell in love with that song. And I tried to sing it to him at 6 years old and give him some words. He said, "Keith, I'm sorry, I just don't understand what song you're referring to." Well, that night at the bowling alley, my family took us to the bowling alley. That song came ripping and roaring out of the jukebox, and it was the Monkees. Last Train to Clarksville. Anyway, in that moment, a passion was born in me. I was being prompted, and I knew it at a very, very early age, that my life was going to move to be a full-time musician. I also had very powerful questions show up in my life at this young age. Who am I? Why am I here? Where did I come from? And where am I going? At 19 years old, you decide to leave the world and go into a monastery. Do you feel this was a prompting from a past life experience that wanted to revisit?
That's a really good question. And I've actually maintained the same answer. Um, I don't know what I do from moment to moment, and things happen. Things have happened in my life, and they are usually spontaneous and of no direct understanding of why I'm doing it. So I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't have the insight when I was 19 to know that this must be something special. There must be more to this desire. All I knew was I've got to get out of here. I've got to master meditation because that's the only thing that's going to bring me ultimate happiness and understanding of self. So if I look back on everything, yes, with my perspective now as a mystic, as a Hindu, as a follower of Eastern philosophy, yes, I do believe that everything has come from past lives. I believe in reincarnation. Um, but did I know that then? No, I didn't know where I was gonna. I didn't know where I was gonna sleep from one night to the next.
How did you discover such a lifestyle at 19? Because, today's children, that's normal, common. But, back in the day, being 19 years old, did you have parents that were into meditation? Did you have some influential friends whose parents were into the movement? Or how did this just come across to where it actually was, calling you?
My mother raised me and my sisters with meditation and Eastern philosophy. She is a Wiccan high priestess. She has always had a temple in the home and her own covenant, and has always worshipped and held ceremonies, and treated life with a lens of spirituality, as far as I can remember, from probably before, probably when I was 5 to 8. She began all of that, and she grew up around the Haight Ashbury, at the peak of it all, and so.
Now we're talking. So you from the West Coast?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Well, at
She
least then. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Please
she
continue.
she is a California girl, and but eventually moved to Chicago with my father, and that's where they had the 3 kids. And now I live in Southern California, so I've made it back to her own land.
Through all these years of, how long were you in the monastery for?
12 years.
How was it? Beginning was pretty grueling.
Yeah, it was a unique experience. It's a one of a kind institution. There's not other monasteries like it. It's militaristic and extremely structured. You're basically trained to be a soldier, philosopher, priest. And in the beginning, I was a monster. I was narcissistic. I thought I knew everything. I mean, I stepped on this path of spirituality and Raja Yoga, but my ego was so strong. It fought me every step of the way. And I had to be broken down psychologically. And I had to have these strong mentors sit me down and say, look, you're an asshole. No one likes you, and you make everyone miserable. So if you don't shape up, we really are hoping you leave. And that was really hard, because so it took about 4 years to break the shell, and learn to harmoniously work with other monks, and um, stop talking so much, and to be a decent person that actually contributed to this monastery. And after that period happened, then the education that I was receiving up to that point, um, started to overlap. So the old me and the new information started to overlap, and that was the beginning of my own ego crisis and dark night of the soul, which took it took many years for that to finish. But I now know that it started around that 4-year period, and it hit me completely about 6 years after that. So where I fully realized that I was the cause of all my suffering.
Where was the monastery?
Kauai, Hawaii. So it's called Kauai's Hindu Monastery.
What is it like to be you now compared to what you can recall before you actually stepped into the fire? How does it feel to be you?
I absolutely love life. I think I think everything is a miracle. I think I've been able, and I told some friends of mine when I left that I think I have this amazing advantage of really appreciating everything and loving everything, and not letting one day go by where I'm not sick of anything, and I'm grateful of everything. And I see this moment happening, moment to moment to moment, and I never lose it. And of course, we all have challenges. I'm not perfect. There's still challenges in my life. I'm in a relationship. I have a 6-month-old child. That I have to update my webpage. I'm not training to be a father anymore. But we have a 6-month-old, and I'm fully engrossed in life now. But I've never uh, from since I've gained certain insights in meditation, they have not gone anywhere. I have not shifted back to who I used to be. And
No, because you've integrated it.
Yes, yes.
Right.
It's fully in there, and it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away.
For me, Rajan, when I was younger, when I first started this conscious walk, pain is a hell of a motivator. Girlfriend left after 10 years, bro. Dark night of the soul, I plummeted for 2 years. In hindsight, looking back, it was the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me. And back in those days, I'd sit down and rebirth and just get that energy moving. And then after about an hour or 2 hours of that, I would lay in the bliss for God knows how long. But I don't per se formally meditate anymore. I'm meditating right now. Whenever I do this work, every morning I wake up, I sit in this $99 office chair and I create books, music, websites, connections with you, connections with them. I'm always in this open-eyed meditative state. And I think that's kind of what you were describing. Yeah, to where all the work now is on idle and we can just play because the work is happening in the background, guiding us and pushing us along and making choices that we normally would have made consciously. But since it's so integrated, the choices are made consciously automatically.
I'm shaking my head rapidly because I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. When we get to a certain point, it's built in. It's part of our operating system, and we've fully converted over. The update has gone in, and we use everything we're given in life as a tool for meditation, for insight, for realization. We no longer need to sit down consistently and go through these stages. Now, when I do meditate, it's fairly simple. It's not the same process. I can sort of cut through, go the back door, and I'm there. But as you say, it's no longer meditation is no longer something that it used to be, and it truly does evolve. And I can, maybe when I'm reading or when I hear something someone says, or I'm watching something, or I see an interaction with two people, all of a sudden, um, I'm brought back into that awareness, and it's very clear. At the same time, you're always there. It's kind of going back and forth. And I tell people, um, when we're just starting out, it's like going from 1 to 10. We wake up, we're around 1 or 2 or 3. And meditation, if it's inner, let's say we get to a 10. Now, as the day goes on, we don't want to stray too far from that 10. Maybe we go to 9, 8, we externalize slightly, but we want to try to stay as inner as possible. But we eventually break through to a point where we're there all the time, and it is possible. And it's not that you're not practicing, but everything has become a practice. Yeah.
Yeah, it does the work for you. It's, you have to put in the blood, sweat, and tears for a while. And once you regurgitate, emotionally regurgitate the self-induced suffering, and we get that out the way, the monkey doesn't talk anymore. I often talk about this. I like to get your thoughts about it, whether you agree with this or or does it remind you of something you've learned in my own way. Trying to quieten the ego, the monkey in the mind. People trying to stomp on his tail, right? Shut his mouth. Well, that's not going to work. You stomp on the monkey's tail, he's just going to start screaming even louder. I made a deal with the monkey. I went into meditation. I said, look, bro, I know what you want. How do I know? Because I want the same things. Your delivery is too strong. I promise you, if you shut your mouth for a little while and let me, the spirit one, go get the same thing that we both want, I promise you, you will be the first one I tell. You will be the first one to find out about it. So basically, instead of walking on his tail, I gave him a banana. Now he can't speak because he's got a banana in his mouth. Right? So, and I did this for over, a couple of months or so. Every so often, I'd make this meditation, and I no joke, my mind considerably began to quieten over a period of time, because I wasn't trying to stomp out the mind. I was actually differently becoming the observer. Like when I tell people, awareness is everything. Awareness changes the game. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to stop anything. You don't have to smash anything. Just simply become aware that it's there. It's sort of like someone who overthinks. Trying to think about how not to overthink is adding to the problem. It's more thinking. Is this sort of, well, I'm sure it is, that what you worked with in your ability to expand it to a broader being?
Yes, 100%. Everything there is perfect. To me, what's going on is you're recognizing that there's a distinction between you and the thoughts, the mind. Um, Once we detect the distinction and we say, "No, I'm not this. I am this permanent being that never changes. That's who I am." Your mind gets exhausted. It realizes what's going on. It realizes that you have the upper hand, and it starts to pay attention. It starts to obey. And you have to be persistent because it's a self-creating mechanism. It comes back over and over again, but you have to say, no, this is what's happening. This is what it's like a child. And absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that is something that is very hard for people to do because of our conditioning and training as we're growing up. If we're not given an Eastern background, most people walking around out there have never heard of the self. They've never heard of anything. If it's a Judeo-Christian aspect, that would be wrong to think that you could become one with divinity. So you're always just at a worshipful distance, and that's in there. That's hard to break in someone in cultures that runs deep. But for those who get creative and imaginative and can visualize certain things and really take their imagination to the next level, you can play with it, and exactly like you're saying, that's a beautiful technique, and I'm going to remember that.
It's a little more fun than it is. What's the word I'm looking for?
Austere.
Yeah. So you have the opportunity to play, to use the word, I love that word, play, and the Hindi way. Did you have any deities that you followed? Nah, that's not the right word. Leaned into any avatars that really spoke to you from the East, from the Indian East?
Oh, absolutely. So the monastery, Kauai Hindu monastery, are Orthodox Saivite Hindus. So they worship Shiva. I worship Shiva. And the other two deities that are important are Ganesha, Lord Ganesha, and Lord Murugan. So the monks are trained. I'm looking up at those three deities right now in my office. I mean, we're trained to connect to these three specifically, and sort of in progressive stages. So Lord Ganesha is first, remover or presenter of obstacles. Lord Murugan is second, as you become a yogi. You know, you're 5 to 8 years in, and you're really starting to make progress with losing ego attachment. And then Lord Shiva, Nataraja, is this divine dancer, is there to put the icing on the cake.
My microphone just did it again. I have a song on my new album coming out. It's called "The Dance of Kali," the sacred dance of Kali and Shiva. When I was asking you the question, did you give any credence at all to some of the deities in India that were embodied? For example, any of the Babas out there?
No, in our lineage, we tend to not get too wrapped up in avatars. So in my teaching that was taught to me, avatars make it so that that person has the divine in them, or that person has the divine in them. Where our lineage really wanted to focus on, you have the divine in you, and you, and you, and me, and we all have it, and we're all on the path. It's going to happen, and no one is no human form needs to be regarded more special than another. That's kind of the idea behind it. Do I believe that some people are older souls than others? I mean, of course, we're all on a timeline. We were all created at some point, and we're all going towards Vishvagrasa, which is complete merger. But have I used? I mean, my biggest catalyst in that regard, other than my guru who trained me, would be Paramahansa Yogananda.
Just hearing his name touches my heart.
Yes.
I was on the other side of the spectrum, if you will. Most of my development came by studying, following gurus. The first one, other than Yeshua, was Satya Sai Baba. He started coming to me in dreams for over a year, and then one night he taps me in my spiritual me. I come to full-blown consciousness, and he's standing across the river.
Wow.
He starts talking to me telepathically. He says, "Keith, come to India." I said, and of course, I get down and genuflect. He says, "Keith, stand up. I got something for you, man." So he says, "I want you to come to India. Put your feet in Indian soil. Turn around and go home. Do this for me." How will I get there? I've never done such a thing. Where will I get the money? I don't know what to do. He said, "Bro, this is a bunch of nonsense. Put this down. I got you covered." So I woke up in the morning going, out of all the things I've ever read about him and all the people that was allowed to talk with him in the little room in the back that wrote these books, these doctors and scientists that don't believe in this stuff in the first place, that if he comes to you in a dream, that he's actually present, giving you his darshan.
Yeah.
I woke up the next morning going, I would love to go to India. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from a lady I never met. Hi, Keith. My name is Debbie Jabbour. Word got to me through a mutual friend that you want to go to India to see a holy man. I said, yes, ma'am. She goes, right? She says, Keith, I'm a flight attendant. I got some companion passes for the year that are about to expire, and I would not like that to happen. Knowing you want to go see your holy man, can I give you a first class round trip ticket? So I was there for 2 weeks, and I've seen so many miraculous things in the 2 weeks I was there than thousands of people collectively in a lifetime, whatever. And then another avatar by the name of Swamiji Visvayogi recently showed up in my life. Same kind of idea. All these happenings come together to put me in alignment to where I'm physically in the proximity of this divine man twice a year, sometimes on a good time. And then he lays his hands on my back. He starts rubbing my spine, and the fire starts going up through the top of my head. And this is all on camera, and people seeing it's nothing special as far as me showing off anything. But these things actually happen and has awakened me. But those teachings with Baba and even with Swamiji, or just as you said, it's not follow me. It's, if you need a ride to the spiritual grocery store, I'll pick you up and take you to the store. After that, you're going to have to learn how to get there yourself. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that being said, that we frequently went to India. I spent time in South India in 2009, and yogis and gurus. Ramakrishna, Paramahansa Yogananda, Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi. We constantly followed their work and read from their work. Vivekananda, those figureheads throughout history, they're real. That's no joke. And those experiences that you have, those mystical awakenings, God bless you. I mean, that is an absolute real thing. And you're so lucky to have those. And I absolutely love following the work of these godlike powerhouses.
Good. Good word. Yeah. Right.
And that just charge forth, and they're like, you are that. Absolutely. Those things are not to be dismissed at all. And I was lucky enough to, or fortunate enough to experience my guru perform siddhis at times in private, and just for me, it's like we're each given something on the path. Were we able to notice it? And then were we able to devote ourselves to believing that it was real, and then using it as a teaching and following that? That's the key. It's not that, oh, when will this ever happen to me? It's what has already happened that you have not chosen to fully devote yourself to. I think that's the key for everyone on the path, everyone listening, and everyone yet to come and yet to listen. And yet to step on the path. There is something there from the mystic. There's something there in the inner worlds that have already started to speak to you. But will you follow it? Will you trust it? I was just talking to one of my students the other day, a young man who was currently aimless, and he said, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And I need something going on. And I said, okay, let's go back about a month. Go over your month and tell me what odd or what has happened or what has come across on your path that is unusual that you failed to see as an opportunity. And all of a sudden he realized he was given an invitation to go to a ashram in India for 6 to 8 months or something and study with this teacher. And I said, this happened 2 weeks ago, and you didn't act on it whatsoever. And so sure enough, he's on his way there, and he's got a purpose, and he's following He's following the universe, because it's just us. It's telling us what to do, whatever we desire, and all we have to do is kind of trust in it. You trust in it. Yes, that's the word.
I want to share one more quick story with you because I think you just get a kick out of it, because two guys at a bar having a beer and we just talking about spiritual shit, right? When I was in India on Sai Baba's ashram, he comes out of the gate on the west. This little bitty 5'1" man. He comes out of the gate on the west, and whenever he starts turning that hand, everybody hunkers in, right? Because they know he's about to materialize something. I swear this happened. Not that I have to convince you, but I'm just being, I swear this happened. He starts turning his hand, whatever it is he's going to materialize. And so now you have 35 plus thousand conscious people directing their focus on this man turning his hand. And I often wondered, is this like, use the force, Luke, it's all around you? Is he drawing in this power and using his will to create a detail? Because when he started manifesting whatever it is, Rajan, it's like everyone ascended to the place where the object come from and we all brought it back together. Mm-hmm. Is this what it was like for you when your teacher, your guru, was doing these cities? Did you feel some part of not just watching an exhibition? Did you feel some remembrance, or whatever word I'm looking for, that somehow you were a part of that manifestation?
That's a good question. You know, everything that I saw was because I was doubting. And all of a sudden, my guru would do something to say, "You're an idiot. This path is real. Stop doubting. Is this what you need in order to keep going?" And I would just get smacked over the head with it, and sort of it would set me straight. But when you said sort of a mass amount of awakened people, conscious beings directing their energy, that's very powerful. That is something to pay attention to. So specifically around that is why the monks meditated together every morning. We could meditate, of course, in our huts, and in the evenings we were recommended to. But every morning we would sit together and meditate, so that we had this focus, and we were all in the same place, following this same shum step in our guided meditation. And if anyone is wondering, how they can kind of get some insight on the path, be around a lot of people who think the same way, and it will help shed some light on a lot of things. Because doing it by yourself is it's necessary. There are things that you need to do by yourself, and that's when it really gets painful. But to get motivation on the path and to get inspired, go to events, go to different things where everyone is believing and focusing on the same thing. And those are those are some very helpful motivations on the path.
Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard, your Center of Light Radio. Tonight, my guest is Rajan Shankara, and he has a brand new book out. Let me show you this really cool image here. It's called Everything As You Felt, though we not really per se talking about his book directly, which we will be shortly. We just got into this brother conversation about things that we like. Let me ask you this, my friend. I'm sure that in all of the reason one would seek out God, spirituality, indirectly or more directly, would be liberation. That being said, in all the years that you put in to yourself, how is, if this is not too personal, how is your ability to launch, or how is your dreamscape? Are you able to move yourself into another locale at will? Or does this happen to you at night, or do you do it in meditation? A little bit of all of them?
Well, certainly in the monastery, astral travel was easy. So I had a discipline. Our temple was open 24/7 for the monks, Every 3 hours, a new monk would serve in the temple for puja and yoga, meditation, cleaning, reading scripture, etc., etc. For years, I had the midnight to 3 a.m. shift and the 3 to 6 a.m. shift. And on these shifts, you're sort of in a sleep deprived state because they're in the middle of the night. And sure enough, after each shift, when you go back to your hut, you're given a few hours to go to sleep and catch up. It becomes very easy to detach from the body and fly, go back to the temple in an astral body. That was very common. See the monk who was on the ship performing the and really, it was almost a burden because you're like, I've got to go back to sleep. I'm tired. I've got work in a few hours.
Right.
And here you are, like jumping around the property and flying from place to place. Once, I'll never forget, I had an experience that I could not control, and I spontaneously fell into the earth. Deep into the earth.
You didn't fall into hell, did you?
No. Well, I'm laying on my bed, and all of a sudden, like, I fall rapidly into the earth, into just a dark, rocky cavern, and I'm sort of stuck. And it's one of those experiences like where you're stuck, you're trying to wake up and you can't move, you can't do anything, and you're like, wake up, wake up, wake up. So this was a little more real than that. This was, fully conscious in my astral body, fully detached from the physical body and stuck in the earth. So that scared the hell out of me. And ever since then, I've sort of subconsciously cut off those things. It was never recommended in the monastery to mess around unless you had approval from a mentor, from another monk. And if you had to work on something on another plane, you did it with them, you talked about it with them. There was sort of advanced teachings to go along with it. But on your own, it was recommended that you stuck to self-realization. You stuck to samadhi, in and out, in and out, in and out, and focusing on that specifically, and your work and your humility and everything else. If it happens, it happens. If not.
Yeah, I was gonna ask or say that it seems like that's a natural part of the process. The more enlightened you become, the more expansive you become within. It seems like since there's no confines and no chains and nothing binding you, the spirit just wants to be free and goes where it wants to go. I was raised Catholic, so you can paint that picture. You can imagine that to be. And growing up, I'd get into those situations. It wasn't a rock in the earth. It was having these little things validate themselves to you for my Catholic dogmatic faith, these little demons. And I would wake up in cold sweats. I couldn't wake up, and I try to finally I'm in the sleep paralysis and something will wake up. But today I know that when these things happen, I actually have my awareness about me that I have a body on the bed and all I need to do is wake up. Or I can shift myself to another reality. Or if they're aggravating me enough, I'll just grab them. That's no fear. I just grab them and start sending love energy to them, and they can't stand that and they squirm. I would like to talk about your book. What brought about this book, Everything Is Your Fault, and how long did it take to write and so forth? Let's get into that.
Okay. I didn't want to write a book. One of my students asked me, out of pure humility and compassion and love, she said, please write a book. And she had a good point. I spent 8 months with her twice a week. In just going through life and spiritual teachings and really helping each other. And when it was all over, she said, a lot of people aren't going to be able to experience this. So if you can write a book, you might be able to reach more people. And at first I said, no, I don't want to do that. But then I realized I could actually write some stuff that didn't have to do everything about me, didn't have to be about me. So the book is a hybrid of autobiographical nature and aphoristic, just information that I learned along the way that might be able to help someone. And I thought, well, if the right moment comes up, super consciously, if words start coming, that's how I produce things. I wait for them to come, and then out they go. So I went to Santa Fe, New Mexico, with my spouse. She was on a business trip, and she said, "Why don't you come along? Because New Mexico is pretty cool." And I said, "Okay." And she had to go on sales one day, and so I went walking around, and I said, "I'll just walk, and I'll bring this pen and paper. If anything comes up, I'll start writing." And I end up getting lost, and I end up at this little tea house, sort of off this quiet road. And I have to go down a flight of stairs to where you can't see the tea house. You have to go down these stairs, and you end up at this wonderful little place. And so I sit down and I have something called monk tea on the menu. And I said, well, that's fine. I'll choose that. And so I'm drinking this monk tea. And all of a sudden, all of the aphorisms from the book flood into my head. And I write all of them down. And I basically write the entire book over the course of about 6 hours in this little tea house. And I thought that was a very productive use of time.
Can you give us a synopsis of the book? I'm going to take a shot at it. Everything is your fault. Is it about taking responsibility?
Yeah. So a lot of people ask me, what's the everything in 12 years at the monastery? How can you condense it down? And really, it comes down to responsibility. It comes down to my own death of the ego and dark night of the soul experience, where I realized that everything was my fault, and the good, the bad, everything. And I think that if we take responsibility, we start to get a sense of our own consciousness and our own awareness, and we get a little closer to what we really are. Because if we can cut everything off, like with a knife, just really slice reality away, we're left with us. And I found that a good way to get comfortable in our own skin and with our own mind and our own being is to realize that we are the be all and end all of this story, of our story, and it's us. And that is, to me, not just a spiritual teaching, but a teaching that can help us with relationships and career and our entire life, everything, the social aspect and the individual. If we can own up to what we've done and assume some sense of responsibility, well, we're in a powerful situation then, and we can start to, well, if it's our fault, then we can actually change something. No, we're no longer the victim at that moment. I mean, at that moment.
You did mention earlier you basically went into training as a warrior monk. What combat style, craft was it kung fu? Was it, because but for many years I always thought martial arts originated in the Orient, but it didn't. It originated in India, right? Is that true?
Indian wrestling.
To fight animals, is that right? Oh,
I don't know. I don't know.
So was there a certain style? Was this like kung fu, or what was the style label that they gave to the fighting style, or the?
We militaristically basically followed structure, hierarchy, rank, routine, timing, perfection in speech and action. and the way you looked, everything, except for any kind of contact or fighting style. We didn't want to. The monks were trained are trained to not get aggressive, and it was thought that that would be uh, invigorating to aggression and forces like that we were trying to subdue and mellow. So everything was based on structure and order. And if we come in as this kind of chaotic know-it-all, and you eat this massive flame burning strong, and we get stamped out slowly with humility, compassion, order, structure. And then we kind of get reignited with a much more beautiful, refined flame that is not flying about everywhere, but it's focused and it's strict. Since leaving the monastery almost 3 years now, I have devoted most mornings to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the greatest things ever invented. So I wish I had learned it in the monastery. I think the monks should do jiu-jitsu, but we didn't specifically have that style of monastery. But that is common in a lot of monasteries. Absolutely.
What was it like to step back into the world after 12 years? And then, oh my God, I'm going to use this analogy anyway. It's like, some people go to prison, not that monasteries are prison, but when they're let out, they just don't know what to do with themselves. Did you have, was it sort of like that for you? Was it just strange, or to find your equilibrium, getting back into the movement of the world?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it is a type of self-imprisonment. My guru's guru is on record saying this: we take ourselves away from the world. We take ourselves away from family and loved ones and friends. We change our name. We change our clothes. We are restricting ourselves. Okay, so we are definitely in that type of environment. We can leave whenever we want, and that's the difference. But in really hardcore renunciation requires a lot of restriction. Coming back to the world, I hit the ground running. So in the monastery, I had seen over the 12 years, people come and go. And you either leave and sink or you swim. And I am very fortunate. The teachings really stuck well with me. Not everyone does well with discipline training. Not everyone does well in that type of environment. And I have brother monks who left and went back to living with their parents and lived in their parents' basement for 10 years. I was contacted by several brother monks that I trained with in the same class and everything. And then one by one, I was the only one left in my class from 2006. I left in 2018. And, it's very hard to see that. It's actually one of the reasons why I started Zen Mind Academy, a 501c3, to give former monks a platform to speak on. And I still keep in touch with these brother monks, and we're actually planning to have them gather and start teaching other people. But I left. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I had a plan. So once I decided that I was done, I threw in the towel. I said I'm not going to take lifetime vows. I had 2 days to clear my things. Basically, that meant give everything back because I didn't own anything, and delegate my work from my department out to others. and they give you $2,000 and say, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And that was that. So when I was in the monastery for 12 years, I was dead to the world. I didn't exist. As I left the monastery, I now have not existed in the monastery. And you are a Shangri-La. It's a Shangri-La type experience. You don't exist to them, and you're not welcome back. So
Wow.
yes, yeah. It's hardcore. It's a gang. It is in fact a
A
game.
mind game, actually, a soul game. Do you miss it? Any aspect of you miss it?
No. It served its purpose. It served its purpose. It was a beautiful experience. I would do it again in a heartbeat if I entered a time machine. But do I recommend it for others? No. I recommend. And young people ask me all the time, should I go to a monastery and do what you did? And I recommend that if you do go to an institution, do not go and do an institution of renunciation that forces you to give up everything. So we were restricted from talking with family, and eventually taking lifetime vows means no more family communication. I don't think it has to be done that way. Now that I look back on it, I think that that's why Buddhism has their monastic tradition has lasted for thousands and thousands of years. Hinduism, their monastic tradition is much smaller, and it is declining. So you got to allow people to do certain things if they're going to stay on the path in broad numbers. And Hindu renunciation is really for the hardcore soldier type mentality. Have to throw down everything. And I'm
and go sit in a cave for the rest of your life.
That's the thing. Hey, I love it. A part of my spirit and heart bleeds that, and will never be rid of a part of that, which is why I still wake up early. And that's kind of where jiu-jitsu really fills that gap, in that hardcore sense of discipline.
You had mentioned that when you're done, everything goes back. They take everything back. Did they take back your spiritual name, or is Rajan Shankara that? Do they allow you that, or is Rajan your real name?
I had to legally change my name when I went into the monastery for formal vows. So I went for a 6-month training protocol of being introduced to the program, introduced to the lifestyle, and then you have to leave and go back home. You have to communicate with family, tell them where you've been and what you're planning on doing if you want to go back. And if you've decided to go back and train full time and become a monk, you have to legally change your name, settle all debts, and settle all affairs basically before you come back. And I legally became Rajan Shankara and threw off my former identity.
Wow. If you look at below me, you see these 3 letters. When I was starting my walk, I went to meditation with the intention of finding this. Does my soul have a name? And Rajan, I hear as loud as possible, Yanava. And it's always stuck with me throughout all my development and doing my spiritual teacher walk at the very beginning. And it settled in a few years ago when I was interviewing Swamji. God Realized Man from India. Whenever I interview these avatars, I always make it about the world. I don't ever make it about me. So at the end, he says, "You got any more questions for me?" I said, "I do have one. I have a personal question." He said, "Yes." I said, told him the story many years ago to find out my soul's name. And I said, Yanava. And almost took him back as if, how could I know that? He says, "Listen to me very carefully." Then he proceeds to tell me, Ya, Na, Va. If you look at the Y, Ya is the fire. It's the heart. It's God. It's passion. It's power. It's all that God stuff, right? And the circle on top of the Y represents the wholeness. Now, if we look at Na, it represents the mind as to why there's a linear bar. We move linearly in the mental way down the timeline. If you look at the Va, there's a spine. So Yaha, Naha, Vaha is the three components of the sacred soul syllable self, which is with the fire in the heart and a clear mind, and we take action, we can bring about whatever it is we want on the earth. And so
it brings me to Namah Shivaya, basically. Yeah. Those are key syllables.
I enjoyed my time with you, sir. Is there anything you would like to leave all of us with that we can maybe chew on, digest, meditate over?
I guess in our deepest core, we're spirit. We aren't the body. We aren't the mind. From one sense, none of this is permanent. We are destined to eventually leave this place. Before we go, we need to discover what we really are. We need to experience it while we're still in this body, on this fire planet. Because when we shed this body, we will not be able to open the same centers and have the same insights. So we need to do it here. You don't need to get angry. You don't need to get frustrated at things. And you can live a beautiful, peaceful life and just flow with everything if you choose to. And I really recommend choosing that path.
We definitely got to do this again, bro.
I would love
we can talk about anything. If you have certain spiritual fields or arenas you like to dip your big toe in, I'm ready to go swimming with you, bro. That sounds so fun. I really enjoyed my talk with you. I love all my guests, but when I get to lock in with someone that, we're only talking for the sake of having a dialogue. We can probably just sit in the same room and just have a conversation with very few words. Man, I really enjoyed my time with you, sir. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard here. I've been putting the links in these forums of my guest today, Mr. Rajan Shankara. Anytime you have something new coming up, and you want to just hang out online and do some chat, you want to express some thoughts, help other people, all you got to do is ask, my friend. Absolutely. If you can, stick around. I got about a minute. I'm going to get out of here. I'd love to chat with you backstage. If not, I understand. Everyone, again, sir, thank you very much. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard here, Center of Light Radio. I've been doing this many, many years. Blood, sweat, and years. And I loved every moment of it. Remember, you're living in the most sacred time throughout the entire universe. This is it. This is what it's all about. This time right now. Prophecy. It's now. Everything in the universe is jealous. They want to be you, but you are living the dream. Everybody else is waiting in queue to be born human, because it is only through human birth that the divine can fully be realized. You see, after all, you are a rock star. Peace, love, and be the light. Keith Anthony Blanchard, Center of Light Radio. There's nothing that has been, is now, or will ever be created more beautiful and or more powerful than you. That's it. Do it.